This show is supported by you. Stick around till the ad break to hear more about that. This is Cup of Go for March 28th, 29th-ish. We never know which day to say, 2025. Keep up to date with important happenings in the Go community in about 15 minutes per week. I'm Shai Ahmad.
And I'm Jonathan Hall.
And that's a fancy mug you got there. You got the Cup of Go cup.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have mine anymore. I should get one.
You should get one. We have a great show coming up for you today. We have an interview with the author of golangci-lint. We're talking about security releases. We're talking about proposals.
Talking about security problems.
And we're going to cram it into 20 minutes maximum because that's when our interview starts. So
this time something will actually force us to adhere to 15 minutes.
Yes.
Kicking things off with a vulnerability. When Jonathan put it on the backlog and told me about it, I literally said, he said there's a vulnerability in x.net HTML. I was like, was it parsing something, whatever, that allows you to read something unexpected? So yeah, as you probably guessed, there's a security vulnerability that's pretty much as expected. There's a package called x.net/net/HTML. You probably heard of it, but if you haven't, it just implements HTML tokenizer and parser. So you'll be able to read HTML and you won't be one of the poor souls. I don't know if you saw that famous Stack Overflow question of I need to parse HTML with regex.
Yes.
I don't know. How do you feel about HTML? But a lot of the time I look at it and it makes sense. I studied it it's the first thing I started when I started computing. It just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
The main thing I learned from the security release was the word solidus. Or is it solitis? Solidus?
What is that?
The tokenizer incorrectly interprets tags with unquoted attributes that end with a solidus character. It's a fancy word for the /.
Whoa, cool.
But I'm going to start using that word all the time now because I think it just makes me sound more snobbish.
Solidus sounds like a boss from Dark Souls. Solidus, the HTML parser annihilator.
Darth Solidus. There we go.
The cool thing about this vulnerability, other than the fact that it was found and patched, and now you should upgrade your x.net packages if you use the HTML tokenizer, which is reasonable, is the blog of who discovered it. I always like to dig into the security researchers behind the vulnerability, not just technically the vulnerability itself. And I can wholeheartedly recommend nc.zip, which is Sean NG from Hong Kong, has a pretty cool short blog about writing up CDFs, and one that I'm particularly interested in, 3 XSS vulnerabilities discovered in Solid.js, universal LLM instruction leaks. Dudes is all over their map. Pretty cool stuff. So if you have HTML stuff, you should upgrade.
What else should you upgrade this week?
I don't know. Is anything important that everybody uses in Go? Does it have a new version?
Oh, wait, here's one. golangci-lint v2 has been released.
With a beautiful logo.
Yes.
The rainbow is not colored, but the logo is colored. Love that stuff. V2.
Yeah, V2. This is a big overhaul. Simplified linters management, improved file paths management, issue exclusions, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to dive into it too much right now because somebody who knows much, much more about it is going to be on the show in about 17 minutes as we're recording. So stick around until after the rest of the news for an interview with the author. We're going to be talking all about golangci-lint.
I just have to say that golangci-lint is the first thing I install in every, I have a script, I have it running. Maybe I set up I don't know, Git, but it's so early in the every Go project that this is set up.
It is also the only open source project I monthly contribute to. I send $20 every month to that project.
No kidding.
Totally worth it. If I had to pay $100 a month for it, I probably would. So it just saves me that much time.
Well, talking about paying for things monthly, I did a little bit of a calculation, and to match up with my friends, we're going to need 4,125 million Patreons.
We should be able to get that in just a weekend or two, I would expect.
Yeah. So everybody, we just basically need half of the Earth's population to join. To just match up with some friends I have in Tel Aviv who recently had
what do your friends do?
Came into some money. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Gee whiz, I don't.
Good one. So Google buys Wiz. Why is this Golang story? Well, Wiz's backend is in Go. And some of it, obviously not all of it. They're already a big, super sprawling company and they've bought like other companies. So I assume it's not all 100% Go, but their core thing is in Go. Disclaimer, I used to work at a competitor at Orca until very recently.
So that's why you're bad talking them so much.
I'm not bad talking anyone. I'm very happy for them. Google is in talks to buy them for $33 billion.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it just goes to show. Go, people can bad talk it all they want, but makes a ton of money.
But what has Wiz ever done for us? Like I heard the name, but have they ever done anything that we would be aware of?
We as Go developers, you mean?
As Go developers, as SREs, yeah.
So they have a product that's like a security platform for cloud security, like Orca. So if you're part of a security team, you've probably heard of it. And their research team has discovered a lot of cloud vulnerabilities. Since a lot of the cloud is written in Go, sometimes you see vulnerabilities that they close in popular open source Go projects. And this week was no exception. Super cool. They got sold for $33 billion. Immediately got back to the drawing board and all right, we found Ingress Nightmare, which was such a big headline. You might have heard of it and didn't realize it was a Go related news item. But a 9.8 critical RCE, unauthenticated. RCE stands for remote code execution. So basically means any Joe Schmo can go into any Kubernetes Ingress Nginx and start running code inside the cluster. So from nothing to full cluster control. Wow. Like cluster takeover.
Is this for both the free Nginx and the subscription Nginx Ingress controller?
I think it's for both. If you just have it deployed, depends on the version because they did a proper disclosure. So it's not like they put this blog out without talking to the developers first. Actually, now they probably work at the same company, right? Kubernetes is Google-ish and Wiz is Google-ish.
So if you're using Kubernetes with Nginx, make sure you've upgraded to the latest version. Is the short version, right?
So a few things you can do. First of all, maybe you don't know if your clusters are using Ingress Nginx at all. All you have to do is look at the pods. So you do kubectl get pods, all namespaces, and look for name equals Ingress Nginx. If you're just running it and you don't have any permissions because someone turned it on once but didn't set it up properly, you're good. Most likely, it has cluster read-only permissions because everything has that. So if these two things exist, you need to patch it. It was patched in Nginx controller 1.12.1 and 1.11.5. And, there are a few things you should do. Either you should upgrade immediately. However, that doesn't always work, right? Like if you didn't stay on top of your upgrade schedule, you might be a few versions behind. And I don't know, upgrading Go version seems important, but upgrading every single thing in my Kubernetes cluster seems like a super pain in the behind. There's just so many moving parts. So until you have something of this magnitude, 9.8 CVE score that forces you to get off your ass, you probably won't do it. Until you can upgrade, there are a few things you can do to mitigate, like stricter network policies, just disable the admission controller on the Ingress Nginx. And there's a description in the blog post. The part that I found interesting after hey, make sure that you upgrade is actually how they discovered it. What's the research motivation behind it? And how does it work? They have beautiful art showing it. And finally, Go code, how the thing actually worked. And there are a few cool tools here that I didn't know about, like Cube Review. Have you heard of Cube Review? It's just a CLI utility to transform requests into admission review requests. So you had to have some tooling in order to just do that, which is obviously also written in Go, right? What's the question? This whole ecosystem is. And you can just look at the code in the blog post. The blog post goes into details about every specific CVE, like auth URL injection, and you can inject on the match CN TLS part of the parser. You can inject in a lot of places here, things that people don't expect. And you can just look at the code, and because it's Go, it's really, really easy to. The vulnerability kind of yells at you. You know what I mean? Sort of when you look at bad code that's so bad that the bug literally screams at you. You know what I mean?
This is a good post. I like how long and detailed it is. A lot of security releases are just a one paragraph description. This is a estimated 13-minute read. Goes into some great detail.
Yeah, and the shout out to the researchers. I know some of them, but even without the personal knowledge, Nir Ochfeld, Ronen Shustin, Sagi Tzadik, Hilali Ben Sasson. Sorry. Good job, everybody. The link to the blog post is obviously in the show notes, along with everything else we're talking about. So if this sounds interesting to you, or you need to immediately grab the link and send it to your CISO or your Kubernetes admin, it's in the show notes. What else do we have on the docket?
Yeah, let's shift away from security stuff for a little bit and talk about some conferences. I have a couple I want to mention. There are two. These are both in the European area. If you're over on that part of the world, like I was a few months ago, they both have CFPs open. GoLab is in Italy, October 5th through 7th, and in Florence, beautiful city. I was there once about 10 years ago. And their CFP is open until April 10th. So if you want to be in Italy in October, send your CFP. The other one is GopherCon UK will be in August 13 through 15, and their CFP is open through May 17. So there's two opportunities to speak in Europe later this year, if that sounds appealing to you.
The unofficial San Francisco Gopher meetup, I mean, it has a date. I don't 100% know if it's happening, but it has a date. If there'll be something more serious, we'll definitely talk about it next week. And there's a proposal, an accepted proposal you wanted to share with me. I'm excited about this one. What's going on?
There's two here, if we have time to talk about both today. So the first one is that they accepted a proposal to add a flag to the go mod verify command.
And I just want to say thanks to Oleg Kovalov, who shared this link in our Slack group. Thanks, Oleg.
Yeah, so the new tag is, or the new command line flag is called -tag. And have you looked at this, Shai? Because this is kind of security related, and it might be a little bit more up your alley.
Yeah, you tried to move away from security a little bit, but turns out you need 10,000 lines of code to protect the one line of code that the to-do app.
That's right.
So there's a few things you need to know about. What is the Go checksum database?
So there's I'm probably going to get this a little bit wrong. So there's a public proxy of Go modules, and part of that, or related to that, is this checksum database that keeps track of, I suppose it's a pairing of module name and version number along with the checksum of that module, so that you can validate that you downloaded the same thing.
And there are two hard things in computer science, right? Cache invalidation, off by one errors, then cache invalidation, or however that joke goes. It's basically a glorified cache, right? Because if you want Go code, you go to GitHub and you download it, but you can use the Go pkg.go.dev to look at these packages. And I 100% promise you, if you listen to this show, you probably spent more time than you think on this site. Whenever you open documentation, it's there, right? Whenever you look for a package, it's there. So it's an important resource to protect, even though it's mostly just a web resource. It also includes mod checksum and some other things that you need to basically verify if you want to make sure that the package you're downloading, the package you're using in your software is the same package that's mirrored there. So the new proposal is adding a flag called tag. So after you push a new tag to GitHub, you double make sure that it syncs up to the package registry. And that way you know that someone else didn't poison your package in the Go checksum database. In a few of our recent shows, we talked about typo squatting issues and things like that, where packages, you just had malicious packages. But even if I don't have to typo squat to do that. If I get force push permissions to your repo, I could push a new tag, then delete it from GitHub, but the checksum database is already poisoned. The cache is already poisoned. But if I'm a package maintainer, I could run this go mod verify -tag a few times and just invalidate the cache and make sure that the proper version of the package is what's in that checksum database. Basically prevents unauthorized changes to that database. I don't think this is a good suggestion.
You don't think it's a good suggestion?
I don't love from the syntax, it's not obvious that it's what it does, right? Go mod verify -tag to me doesn't it doesn't clarify that's what it does, but that's just a UX thing.
I agree with that. Yeah.
And you have a few flags, all versions, latest versions, specific versions. I get why checking the latest version is the thing that I'm worried about, that this opens up the other side of an attack on the mod package database itself. And I wish I saw this proposal in time. I might still comment on it, even though it got accepted, because I don't understand what prevents people from creating a fork of a repo, changing the code a little bit, and then like basically invalidating all the cache all the time. Like it would be so easy to DDoS package website right now with this command. You're basically giving a drain option to all the caches with this command. I don't fully understand how it protects from that.
I think you should comment.
Like I'm not missing something, right? Other than basic DDoS prevention measures, like DOS prevention measures, this command allows me to, with a little bit of work, basically invalidate all the cache for the GoMod site, just generally, right? Because I'll ping it with wrong versions all the time. Or am I missing? Do you think I'm missing something and it's not actually possible?
I don't know about that. I'm still trying
I'll
to
double check before I comment. I really hate writing on proposals and then being wrong.
Yeah. Assuming this works as intended, I'm still unclear. Like, when would I use this? Would I run this in my CI? Would I run this every time I upgrade? When would I? So
every time you push a new tag to GitHub, you immediately after like it's done and the release is okay. Whatever release is okay means to you. Usually, when you push a tag, it already means that you merge domain and everything checks out. Immediately after that, you run go mod verify -tag latest. It has two side effects. One, it makes sure that it's uploaded to the SumDB. So if someone else wants to pull it, they do it immediately. They don't have to wait. And it checks that it matches the local repo, which is exactly what you want.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah, that does seem like it would be vulnerable to what you've suggested.
I'll double check that. Just the security flavor of this episode has got my offensive juices flowing. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that is about all we have time for. We had one other proposal, but I think we'll save it for next week because our guest should be joining immediately after our break. So
let's jump to that.
Hello, this is Jonathan from the future. Welcome to our so-called ad break. We just finished recording the interview. It was a good interview. Stick around for that in just a minute. Before we jump into that, I want to remind you that you can buy our swag. We have mugs, we have t-shirts, we have USB chargers. We're looking into getting YubiKey covers. I don't know if that's even possible. We're going to try. Cupago.dev. You can click on our store link there and buy this cool swag with Brewster, our mascot. It's one great way to support the show. You can also support the show by sharing it with a friend, with a colleague, with a fellow student, with your pets. You can even support us financially by becoming a Patreon. The link for that is also at cupago.dev. But one of my favorite ways to support the show is to just talk to us. You can find us on Slack at the Cupago channel on the Gopher Slack. That's cup-o-go kebab case. We have over 500 people there now. We have some pretty lively discussions sometimes. We talk about past shows. We talk about upcoming things. People share news items there that we often put on the show. Join us there. We love to chat with our listeners. I'm sure I'm forgetting something since Shai isn't here to remind me, but I think that's okay. We'll cover it next time. Let's get to the interview about golangci-lint. Hey, Shai, I just pulled this Go code out of the dryer and it's covered in lint. How do you think I can get rid of that?
You just pulled this Go code out of the dryer. Right.
We're going for bad jokes, right? Did I do a good one?
I think it's intervention level worthy of bad. Well, I don't know a lot about lint. Actually, this is an audio show, so this joke won't carry. But I have this new wool sweater that my wife knit me. Mm-hmm. It's a bit linty as well. Like it has a bit of fluff. But I'm not an expert on linting. Are you?
I mean, I used to have a linter, but it's kind of old and crufty. I feel like I need a new one.
Oh, maybe there's a new version. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to our terribly bad humor hour. You're here to talk about golangci-lint version 2. But before we do that, would you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So I'm Ludovic Fernandez in French. Mm-hmm. So, but I think most people know me with my nickname is Ldez.
Ldez, yes.
I'm currently maintaining golangci-lint, but not only, also maintain Lego Let's Encrypt client in Go. Currently, I'm working for open source because I have I had decided to change the way I work, and I wanted to try to work only for open source, so only rely on donation. I wanted to do that because I think it's possible, and I think OSS maintainability and sustainability is important, and we have to do something to send some signal to say, hey, it's time.
And I'll just take the opportunity here to say there's a link in the show notes. I found the supporting us page on golangci-lint.run. I assume that's if people are listening and they agree with you and they want to support you, it's right on the homepage. There are backers and sponsors, and you can join the social networks as well to spread the word, right?
Yes. I'm one of I think this is the only open source project, golangci-lint, that I monetarily support. So I encourage our listeners to do that too.
Yes, you are one of the early sponsor.
I like to think, whenever I click on a Google ad, that like 0.0000001 cent of that AdSense money ends up in the Go team salary or something like that. Whenever like YouTube pops an ad, and I'm like, no, I just want to watch this video. Then I'm like, no, it's good. This money goes to Google. Somewhere inside Google, someone is maintaining the compiler. That's fine. And then I end up watching the same annoying insurance advertisement because I just moved here, so they don't stop doing it for me. So the aspect of doing open source full time, how has it been for you? I want to talk about how has it been for the project. I'm sure the project had a lot of, it was very good for the project to get your full attention. But just wondering, I assume a lot of our listeners are curious about like, how does that work? Did you set up a company? How does that work?
Yes. It worked. I created a company, a small company with just me, because legally I'm forced to do that. But for golangci-lint project, I created an open collective organization. In fact, Open Collective is the fiscal host of golangci-lint. The money that people give to golangci-lint doesn't go to my company. It goes to this fiscal host. For now, I don't really know how I will drive this money, but no, there is a place. There is a place. And for me, working on open source every day, it's like working for other projects. Not really different. The only difference, in fact, is that I wake up when I want, but I have to do all the work. So it's not a paradise, but it's not an hell, and it's really far from hell. I'm really happy to do what I do. I don't know if you want to know something else. I'm not sure if I answered to the question, but
no, you totally did. There is a bit of business overhead that's invisible to setting this thing up, but it's cool that it's not like super complicated. It sounds very possible. It's not like, oh, there's no legal precedent. Like, oh, just start a company, the money will eventually go there.
Sorry, my watch warned me that my heart is a bit higher. Too higher.
It happens to me. It happens to me whenever I meet the CTO of my current company all the time. My watch is like stress level high. I can sympathize.
We've had a number of people on the show who talk about running open source businesses. It's a model I admire. I do some open source work. It doesn't pay any bills. I never get any money from it. So I really admire the people like you who do that. And so thank you. And I, of course, appreciate your project. golangci-lint is one that I use and advocate other people to use very heavily. So let's talk about that a little bit. Maybe let's start with looking back in time. When did you start golangci-lint?
So first, I'm not the author, the initial author of golangci-lint. It's Dennis. Dennis created golangci-lint around 2018, if I remember well.
Okay.
He tried to build a company on top of golangci-lint called golangci. The goal was to provide a tool, a CI tool, a SaaS tool to Lint. I don't have the full history because I will try to explain that. But in reality, I never met Dennis because when I come to the project in 2020, I think, and Dennis was already, I don't have the word, but he was not here.
Sure.
He mainly leaves the project because the SaaS service doesn't really work, and not as a tool. The tool was working, but as a business. So he decided to open the organization to everybody. And he sent a lot of invitation to contributor, introduce a system to invite every contributor to the organization. So I started at this moment when everything was automated, in fact. And then I start to contribute on one or two things. And day by day, month by month, I become the main maintainer. But it was not a plan, in fact.
So when did you sort of become the main maintainer?
There is no real date.
Yeah.
No, I contribute more and more. At some point, I asked to, not Denise, but, sorry, I don't remember this name. From my memory, it's Alexander, a colleague to Denise. If he can give me the right, because it was difficult to handle a project when you don't have the right to handle the CI, the configuration. It was a main problem at some point. I don't know if you remember or if you live this story, but Crypto bot start to hack the GitHub Action CI by opening pull request. We were under the attack. It was not really funny because without the right to stop the pull request, to stop something, it was really complex. So,
okay.
So it was progressively, gradually.
And then I guess that, of course, the big news, the reason you're on today is because version 2 was just released. Version 1 has been around for ages. It's been getting new features all the time. What inspired you to go with version 2? Why the change?
In fact, the idea of V2 began there is 6 years before I become a maintainer, but nobody was able to do it because creating a major version is not as simple as we can think, because there is a lot of things that you have to think in terms of feature, in terms of tooling. A lot of people forget that CI exists, yes, but CI doesn't do the job. They just do what they have to do, and you have to learn them. So,
yeah.
And in fact, without someone that really want to take the topics, the V2 was not able to go out. In fact, so at the end of the previous year, I said, I'm tired with deprecated thing, with breaking some random stuff and living with options that doesn't work, that's really annoying. So I decided to go for a V2, not a huge V2 with a lot of stuff, but something straight to the goal, something that simplify some elements, something that remove all and deprecated stuff. The goal was not to create the wish list, the Christmas wish list for every feature in the world, but just prepare the future and clean the past.
Nice.
The new configuration looks like, I've been with the golangci-lint forever. The new configuration looks a lot simpler. The only problem is I used to rely on a GitHub gist. I don't remember who wrote it, but I actually have to give a shout out to the guy, so I'll find it. But there's, if you look for golangci-lint golden config,
I think I know this person. It's the nickname is Matori, I think.
Yeah, Marit Reimers from the Netherlands. I always just go to this page, copy it, and now it might not be the correct configuration anymore. I'll comment and say that V2 has been released.
I think he will create a new version of this golden file.
Oh, already someone did it. Ran golangci migrate. Oh, there's a command to migrate all configurations.
Yes. In fact, for me, the major point when you create a V2, because I already created V2 of some important tool. Previously, I was working on traffic. I don't know if you know it. So I already leave some major version and the difficulty related to major version. So when I started to think pretty early in the early days about the V2, I started to think we have to provide a migration guide. We have to provide the command that migrates seamlessly your configuration, and we create that.
So I realized we forgot to do something, and that is, so apologies to any listeners who don't actually know what we're talking about. We haven't explained what golangci-lint is. I'm just assuming everybody knows. Let's go back. Tell us in your own words, what is golangci-lint and why would anybody want to use it?
Golangci-lint is a runner for linter. So it's a linter. But the difference between no, there is no difference. It's just a runner for linter, a fast linter for linter. The goal is to statically analyze the code, detect some bug, detect some style error, but it's not really error, but warn you about some styling issue, and report them like that. You can fix them. So I think everybody know ESLint, ESLint, or I don't really know the tooling of Ruby, but I think it's Ruby Cop or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I hate Ruby Cop.
Never used, so I cannot hate it.
and the Rust compiler, of course. No need for any.
Yeah, really good. So it's a static. It's sort of a meta analyzer. It combines a number of configurable linters, so you can kind of pick and choose which ones you want to run. Right?
It's a difference between some other linter. Golangci-lint is user-oriented, so you make your choice. We don't really decide, but we select the linter. The linter should not drive to bad practice. It's a limit of, and the linter should not be detector. So what I call detector is something that just report, yeah, it can be a problem. No, is it a problem or it's not a problem? It can be a problem. It doesn't exist for me because I know that most users, when use a linter, in fact, they just follow the linter because they trust in the linter. So, the main difference for me from other, it's design it to be used and configured by you with your rule and not our rule.
How many, like on your projects, do you have just like the one configuration that you use? I was wondering about that. Like, first of all, now that I'm thinking about it, what golangci-lint configuration runs on golangci-lint? But
yeah. So the golangci-lint configuration of golangci-lint is not a good configuration because, but in fact we are forced to do that because the configuration of golangci-lint will be used to test golangci-lint over the version. So we have something really thin because we should have consistency between the version, between the release. So we have something really thin. So it's really not a recommended configuration. It's a configuration, but not a recommended configuration. In my opinion, there is no real recommended configuration because you have to tune the configuration for your project. For an example, I created a linter that's called tagliatelle. Tagliatelle is handle struct tag. You know the name that the field will have inside your JSON, or the name of the mapping for the JSON.
Yeah, it like makes sure that the tag maps up to the name of the field.
Yes, exactly. But for example, when I work on Lego, so I have to handle 100 of DNS clients. but each DNS client has this host casing. So I cannot use one configuration. I'm forced to use a configuration that is for this client or for this project. It depends on your convention. For example, if you have to interact with a PHP project, maybe they will use Snake. They will use Snake case, or maybe they will use Camel case. So for me, there is no real recommendation, but there is some linters that I recommend to use because they are globally neutral. So
I find that I tailor my configuration very heavily to the project I'm working on and the people on that project. For a solo project, I have a very different set of linters than I do for a project on a team of 10 people. Because, maybe on a 10 of 10 people, I have more junior developers who don't know all the idioms and stuff like that. And I want maybe stricter linters to encourage them to not use global variables, for example. But on a solo project, I know I'm not going to use global variables unless I just really, really want to or need to for some reason. And I don't feel like I need the linter to do that. Do you find people doing the same sort of thing, tailoring their configuration to the project, to the people, or what do you recommend? What have you seen?
There is a lot of users of different profiles. In fact, there is advanced user like you. You know what you need and you know what you do. So you will just set up the linter that prevents you from some complex stuff or some mistake. And there is some people that use the linting as a kind of teacher to drive the people to the right direction. I saw a conference in Gopher, India, I think, where a person explained how they handle the configuration. They create a cheat. They put the name of each linter, and they said why this linter is useful, why this linter is not useful, and they share that with their team as they build their configuration like that. So different personas, different profile of user.
One thing I really like with messing up all these configs is that it's a fun way to spend time. So I think I'll drop off the interview now and just go and mess around with my config, like turn on the linter, see if I like the errors, and then turn it off. Since there are so many linter possibilities that you can turn on and off, it's going to take me a while. So I'm going to drop off and let Jonathan continue this interview. But before I do, I again really want to say thank you for coming on and for the project. Like, it's a really, really good project. And again, reiterate the call to action. If your company uses golangci-lint and it caught you a production bug, like my company did twice, go contribute to golangci-lint. By the way, if you are a company in Israel, I don't know how it works in other places, but if you contribute to open source, you can, and my lawyer did it, you can write it off as a donation, and then it's a tax write-off as well. So if you're a company and you have your finance people have some time on their hand, that could even get you money at the end of the year. Thanks a lot, Ldez. I'll be dropping off now.
All right, let's talk a little bit more then about the improvements you made in V2. We talked about configuration and migration from old to new, and how it's not really like a huge change. It's mostly some cleanups. But let's talk specifically. What were maybe the top 2 or 3 things in your mind that changed from V1 to V2?
For me, the main thing is the introduction of the formatter. So the formatter was already here. It's not new, but the way to use it is new. So there is a new command called golangci-lint fmt. So it's the equivalent of GoFMT, but you can configure it with the classic configuration of golangci-lint. It works like GoFMT. So I said FMT because I'm French, but I think in the Go community is GoFMT. Yes. But sorry. Yeah. So I think it's something that can simplify the usage of linting and formatting, because we all appreciate a GoFMT, GoImport, because they are great formatters, but there is some issue with those formatters that other formatters fix. For example, GoFMT have some extra rule that's really good to apply. There is also GCI that we handle a consistent order of the import. And for me, it's really good because Go import or even Go fund doesn't group the import. You have no consistency in the imports. But it's not really related to the V2, but the V2 will help for that. And another major point for me, it's the file path management, because previously, if the paths that were defined inside the configuration were relative to the binary, not the binary, but the launch, the place where you launch the binary, and it was really inconsistent. If you was running the golangci-lint into a package, your exclusion, for example, doesn't work. So now I fixed that. I know it seems to be a detail, but I spent days and days and days to try to find the right way to handle that, to doesn't break everything. It was horrible.
I can imagine. All right.
And just one important point. Sorry. Sorry, I spent maybe too much time. But another point for the V2 that I'm really happy is the remove of the default exclusion. Previously, missing comment or not some error handling was hidden by default. And at some point, it's a problem because you have to handle error and you have to comment. But we all know that the majority of projects don't really put comments. And when we close a file, we don't really care about the error. So we remove all those default exclusion, but we introduce something more human-friendly with human-friendly name to disable the complete topic. So, for example, we have a preset named comment, and it will remove all the reports related to comments.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I have not installed V2 yet. I've just been busy with other things. It's only just came out a few days ago, but I will. I'll probably do it before this episode is released. So maybe next week, on the next episode, I can talk about my experience with it.
You will see it's pretty quick to try it. You're on golangci-lint migrate. It's in. Yeah. You can use it.
It looks really simple based on what I read and what you said. So I'll be trying it over the weekend probably. Is there anything else that you think we should call out? Anything else about V2 or maybe other plans you have in the future?
I don't have really plan for the future for now because the V2, I worked 3 months on the V2, so more than 3 months on the V2. So now I think I will just slow down a bit and think. But there is some elements that community want to be introduced. So I think I will work on that. I don't want to say something on which feature is or because I don't want problems, but I will continue.
Very good. Do you want to talk about Lego for a little bit and just to introduce that to the audience too, what that is?
Oh yeah, Lego. It's a Let's Encrypt, so an Acme client in Go that you can use as a library or as a CLI. Lego is able to handle currently and more than 100 DNS provider. So everything is automatic. Maybe I should explain what is Acme and what is Let's Encrypt. So I will not explain what is Let's Encrypt, but I will explain what is Acme. Yeah. Acme is an automated way to get certificates, so to have the HTTPS. And so Lego allow to create the certificate easily. You just need to have a server or a DNS or I don't know. It's pretty clear. Sorry, my sentences are not straight. And
that's okay. No, I understood you. Yeah, thank you. So, golangci-lint and Lego are your two big projects. I imagine you dabble in other things. You probably submit bug fixes and stuff to other projects as you need to.
Yeah, I contribute to I think I'm like a lot of people that work around open source. I use open source, and when I have a problem, I try to fix it, or I try to create a good report to help the maintainer to fix the problem, because it's always complex to fix something if you don't know a project. So I try to open good issue, and I try to fix what I can fix, or add new feature if I can do it.
Very good. Great. Well, as we mentioned before we started recording, we always try to ask our guests. Well, first of all, we give you an opportunity to share any links you want. We've already talked about your 2 projects. We'll have links to those in the show notes. I don't know if you want to share social media links or personal blog or anything like that you'd like the audience to know about.
I think the current link to the donation page for me or for golangci-lint are enough. So
great. We'll put that in the show notes if you'd like to contribute financially to help Ldez continue to live the open source dream. And then beyond that, we have a question we'd like to ask. We already told you about this before we started recording. We ask all of our guests, and that is, when you started learning Go, or even today, who has inspired you the most? Who have you learned the most from, whether it be through blog posts, through conference talks, books, anything? Who has inspired you the most in your Go journey?
It's complex because I was not in the first generation of the Gopher, but I started Go in 2017, I think. It was pretty early, so I learned by working on Go code, on the traffic Go code, to be clear. And it was I don't know what to say, because didn't really follow some people in the Go community. I read a lot of code because I love the code. I love contributing, so I read a lot of code. So I would say the Go community is
That's a good answer. I love that. Yeah,
is, my reference.
Great. Well, yeah, I like that answer. It's if you're reading code, you don't even know necessarily who wrote it, right? You're just reading the code.
Yeah, it's something that for me it's the same thing. Sorry, maybe it's off topic, but I contribute to open source not for my name, but because my code, and not because it's my code, because the code will continue. And maybe in the future, someone will use that, but never knows that was the first we write this.
Right. Yeah. That's great. And I think that's maybe good advice for others too, who are trying to learn Go. Is we hear it fairly frequently. I think read the code, read the standard library, read golangci-lint. I just referred somebody else to read golangci-lint code earlier today. They were asking how to call gofumpt from Daniel Marti. Directly. I'm like, I don't know how to do it, but I know golangci-lint does it. So you could go read that code and figure it out. So yeah, it's always good advice to read code, whether it's Go or another language.
Yes. And I think Go is a good language for that. I have worked, and I think you too, on different language, but Go is really easy to read. More easy than a lot of code. So read it.
I agree. Yeah. Great. Well, Ldez, I really want to thank you again for coming on. It's unfortunate Shai had to leave to go reconfigure golangci-lint again. But I really appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show. We've had several listeners ask to hear from you, so I know that this will be a treat for our audience. Thank you so much. We'll have links to the projects and to your donation page.
Thank you too for inviting me. Sorry.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's always great to meet somebody who makes the software I use. So thank you so much.
Program exited. Goodbye.